Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. This evening, this is our group learning program where each Sunday morning and Sunday evening at 9 p.m. and then on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., I help students to be able to understand the path to enlightenment gradually, slowly but surely over a 7-month period. What I do is I start with meditation, but then afterwards I share a talk from this book. It's titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. Today we're in chapter 22. I go chapter by chapter each Sunday. Chapter 22 is titled Mental Health, a Modern Day Delusion. This is where you can learn about things like ADHD, ADD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, anorexia, bulimia, all these things that people are actually thinking are mental disorders and problems with the brain. It can actually be resolved through training the mind. The Buddha actually taught people how to train the mind to overcome the difficulties and challenges that oftentimes people are describing as mental illness today. So I'll share that with you guys after our meditation. If you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I start is with some chanting. This helps to ease the mind into meditation so you can get more benefit out of the meditation itself. You're welcome to chant along if you like. There's chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. And if you decide to chant along, it's best to understand that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing those types of things associated with his teachings, those aren't his actual teachings. Those are misunderstandings. So when I'm chanting, it's to help ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Then I'm going to provide you some guidance during the meditation, but then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and everyone joining online. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand this topic from chapter 22 about mental health. So feel free to take whatever position you like for meditation, whatever's comfortable for you. I'll get started with the chanting. Like I mentioned, you guys are welcome to join in. Then I'll come back in with the guidance afterwards. Samma sammuto mahakeva Wat Tung mahakevanhang apivateyami Savakato mahakevata tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang namami Namo rasa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo rasa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo rasa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Iti piso mahakava arahang samma sammuto Vicacaranang sammuno Sakato rokavitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusrang Bhutto Bhagavati Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it's moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Emakewa Bhutang Mahakewanhang Apivateyami Savakato Emakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Emakewato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakewa Arahang Sama Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sekato Rokawitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusarang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. The individual who we refer to as the Buddha figured out over 2,500 years ago how to get to enlightenment. What enlightenment is, where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. You won't experience anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind through training the mind. Oftentimes people are thinking that these feelings are being caused by someone else. They might think that it's their mom and dad that are frustrating them, or their brothers or sisters are irritating them, or their boss is making them angry. But in reality, what you can learn through the teachings of the Buddha in a way that you independently verify is that you can see the real true cause of what's actually causing these feelings. It's not the outside world. Oftentimes people might even think that some of these feelings are being caused by brain chemistry and what's going on inside the brain. But I'm going to help you guys to be able to see today what is actually causing these feelings and how you can actually eliminate them, and how it's not actually a mental illness or a mental health disorder. Now, the anguish that people experience because of the symptoms that they experience, that is a real true thing that's actually really happening. Like if you're experiencing any type of situations that are being labeled as ADHD or ADD or OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, PTSD, some of these other things that people are experiencing, they're experiencing real anguish. They're experiencing real difficulties, but the cause is not brain chemistry. This is the reason why people find it very challenging to get a solution. But if you actually learn and understand what it is that the Buddha is teaching you, you can actually see how all of these things and others, the symptoms of those, can be eliminated through training of the mind. So I'm going to help you guys to understand this as we go today. And I'm going to pause a few times and open up for questions to see what you guys would like to ask questions about. Here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl there in the middle of the room. We have some up here as well. And if you could get a microphone and just press the gray button, you'll see the lights come on, and hold this up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then for those of you guys that are online, if you guys would like to ask questions, you can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like. So oftentimes people think that it's the outside world that's causing these feelings. One of the things that the Buddha discovered about the unenlightened mind is that it lacks wisdom, that the mind in the unenlightened state lacks wisdom about many aspects of the world. And what a Buddha does is they penetrate through to see true reality of what's truly going on in the world, and then they figure out how to get to enlightenment. When they figure out how to get to enlightenment, they know that they're enlightened because they know for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, their mind isn't experiencing any discontent feelings. And then what a Buddha will do is they will actually share their teachings with others to be able to help them to be able to get to enlightenment, that same mental state that they're experiencing. But oftentimes the world has certain beliefs. With belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. But in order to be able to understand true reality and understand how the world truly works, you can't function through belief, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You need to be able to see true reality. So the Buddha helps his students to be able to see what is that true reality, because they've awakened to that reality. So while a Buddha lives in the world and they understand the complications and the difficulties of what's going on in the world, their mind isn't soiled by the world. Their mind isn't tainted by the world. Instead, they can see true reality, where oftentimes the prevailing view in society is one thing or another, where a Buddha can penetrate through that and be able to see true reality. So one of the very first things that you learn on the path to enlightenment is a teaching called the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths in 4 simple statements helps you understand what is the problem that the Buddha discovered in the mind, what is the cause of that problem, what is the elimination of it, and what is the path forward of how to actually fix it. And in order to understand this teaching, you need to be able to independently verify it. You can't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you. So I'm going to help you guys to be able to see what the Buddha taught on this important topic. And today, if you really peer into this closely, you can have a breakthrough. You can understand once and for all what's causing your feelings, like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. Like I mentioned, right now, you might firmly believe that it's other people that are causing these feelings. But if you penetrate into this, you'll be able to see how it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And this is very empowering, because when you see this truth, then you can actually fix it. Whereas if it's other people that are causing you to experience these feelings, you'll never actually be able to fix it. You'll just walk around for the rest of your life with stress and anxiety and guilt and shame and fear and all these other discontent feelings. But you can actually fix all of that through training of the mind. So in order to understand what I have to share with you about mental health, you need to first understand this teaching of the Four Noble Truths, because that's what's going to help you to understand what's causing these feelings. So that way, by the time we talk about mental health, you'll understand what it is that I'm sharing with you. In order to understand the Four Noble Truths, you need to first understand the 3 universal truths. These are three building blocks that are helping you to be able to understand the Four Noble Truths by the time we get to it. Now, these 4 noble truths that I'm going to share with you, they're based on these. So you're going to need to understand these first. You need to penetrate into this and be able to see the truth for yourself. And I've taught this in this program many times. So what I do here in this particular chapter is just give you kind of like a recap. So I'll just kind of recap this for you and help you to be able to see what the Buddha is teaching here. So the Buddha is teaching you that the world is impermanent, that everything around you is constantly changing. This is a very important teaching to understand by the time we get to the Four Noble Truths, because this is a building block to help you understand that. The Buddha is not explaining to you the way the world should be. He's not giving you rules and commandments. He's helping you to understand the way the world is. And the way the world is that it's constantly changing. So you need to be able to verify this for yourself. Like you can see that this human body that you have, it's constantly changing. Ever since you were born, it's constantly changing. The relationships that you have, Those are constantly changing. You have people coming in and out of your life all the time. The weather is constantly changing. Your bank account is constantly changing. Everything around you is constantly changing. So this is an important building block to understand. Then the second universal truth is called discontentedness. This is where the Buddha helps you to be able to see that the unenlightened mind is experiencing what's called conditioned feelings. What a conditioned feeling is that your mind is forming feelings based on some condition. For example, if you see it's sunny outside and you get really happy and excited about that, that's conditional happiness. Based on the condition that the sun is present, your mind's now going to experience happiness, right? The problem with this, though, is that the sun is not permanent. So if you base your inner feelings on the sun, that means when it's raining, you'll be sad or frustrated. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, that means when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. So the mind in the unenlightened state has conditioned feelings, that is forming feelings based on some condition. And you need to be able to see this to be true, that this is what you experience, that you experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant. This is the mind being shaken up and unsteady and uncalm. By the time you get to enlightenment, you're beyond this. You're no longer experiencing conditional feelings. You're experiencing unconditioned mental states where the mind is just always happy. It's always joyful. It's always bright and cheerful and glad and uplifted, that it's not experiencing any of these conditional feelings. You've trained your mind to no longer form conditional feelings. So you need to be willing to let go of that conditional happiness, the temporary happiness, in order to be able to get to the permanent happiness and the permanent joy. As long as you keep allowing your mind to form conditioned feelings, it's going to keep getting happy and excited when it's experiencing certain things, and then it's going to get angry and sad and frustrated when it's experiencing other things. So this is called discontentedness. This is where the mind's experiencing conditioned feelings. Then there's the universal truth of non-self. This is helping you to understand that the mind in the unenlightened state has a perception that it wants to be perceived by others in a certain way, that you cling to your self-image or your self-identity, wanting others to perceive you in a certain way. And you can only be happy when they're perceiving you the way that you want to be perceived. So for example, if you've ever spilt something on your clothing in a social situation, like maybe spaghetti sauce or chocolate ice cream, and you were embarrassed by that, that's because the mind's clinging to this self-image, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And you can only be comfortable when they're perceiving you the way you want to be perceived. Or maybe you looked in the mirror and you saw a wrinkle or a pimple or a mole or a gray hair, and you were shaken up by that. That's your what we call personal existence view, where you're clinging to this body, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And you can't feel comfortable unless you're being perceived the way you want to be perceived. The mind also has a self-identity, like based on your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation, any number of different things that your mind might be holding on to as who you think you are as a person. And if you cling to this, then that means when you're being perceived the way you want to be perceived, you'll be happy and excited about that. But when you're not being perceived that way, you'll be frustrated and angry. So say, for example, you think in your mind that I am American, or I am Chinese, or I am Lithuanian, or I am Brazilian, or I am Israeli. And you have this I am in your mind. Well, if you're at a restaurant and two tables over, they're saying something very fond about the identity that you're holding on to in your mind, you'll have pleasant feelings. Maybe they say all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle. I've never heard this before, but maybe somebody might say this, right? And now if you think I am American, you'll be so happy and excited because you think they're talking about you. But then it's only a matter of time before two tables over, somebody says something degrading and disparaging about the nationality that you're holding on to in your mind. And now you feel frustrated or angry or irritated. So your mind is going up and down based on wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. You might be clinging to any number of things related to the body or the mind. So if somebody says, wow, you're so handsome, you're so beautiful, that shirt really brings out the colors of your eyes, you might be like, oh, wow, they're talking about me, right? You get all conceited, you get all pleasant feelings. But it's only a matter of time before somebody says, where did you get that haircut? Are you going outside looking like that? And now you're frustrated or angry or irritated. That's because you're clinging to this body, wanting others to perceive you in a certain way. So the Buddha teaches you as part of these universal truths that there is no self, that this body is in you, this mind is in you, and you need to train your mind to not cling to it, wanting others to perceive you in a certain way. So these are three universal truths that I normally take a good 20 minutes, 30 minutes to kind of walk students through to understand these. But I just kind of did an overview of these so you could understand them as we're moving into the Four Noble Truths. Then there's craving, desire, attachment. This is the last building block that you need in order to understand the Four Noble Truths. This is the way the mind longs and yearns for the objects of its affection. The mind pulls towards things. It's almost like the mind thinks the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So the mind will chase it and chase it and chase it. It's almost like an unquenchable thirst where the mind is pulling towards something. If you've ever been in the mall and you saw a brand new pair of shoes and you're like, oh, brand new pair of shoes. Oh my gosh, they look so good. They're going to look so good on my feet. I can't wait to get those shoes. That's the craving, not the shoes themselves, but the way that the mind is longing, yearning for the shoes. Or it might have been a video game or a new phone or something like this. Or maybe you were thinking, I don't feel good right now. I feel kind of sad. What'll make me feel better? More money. That'll fix it. Let me get some more money. And now you might chase after money for a while. And if you get your money, you'll be happy. But if you don't get your money, you'll be sad or frustrated or annoyed. And even if you get your money, that happiness will fade over time. And then you're like, what do I need to be happy here? A new boyfriend, a new girlfriend, that'll fix everything. Let me get one of those. And now you'll chase after that for a while. And you'll get your boyfriend or girlfriend. You'll be happy at first. But then the relationship will deteriorate and you'll end up right back in the painful feelings with the anger and frustration. And then the mind's like, what do I need to feel better? I know what I'll do. I'll go to Thailand. That'll fix everything. They've got mango and sticky rice. They've got massages and elephants to play with. Let me go to Thailand for a while. And then you're really happy when you come to Thailand. But then you got to go back home. You don't want to go. Right? So this is what the mind's doing with its craving. The mind's pulling towards things, seeking satisfaction externally, thinking that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So you guys know what I'm talking about here? How your mind pulls and chases? Okay, so now we can talk about the Four Noble Truths. And again, normally I take a period of time to really walk you through this, but I'm just going to go over it in kind of like a summary form. So the first noble truth is explaining the problem in the mind. The problem that everyone is experiencing that's in the unenlightened state is the discontentedness, those conditioned feelings, that the mind can only experience a feeling if some condition is met. So basically the mind's happy and excited, but then it's sad or angry and frustrated. And then it's embarrassed and disappointed. Then it feels guilt and shame and fear and loneliness and boredom. There's some peacefulness here and there, but it's only a matter of time before the mind gets annoyed or frustrated about something. This is the problem that each unenlightened being is experiencing. The mind's not steady. It's not stable. It's not cheerful and bright and glad and uplifted. It's going up and down and up and down. So this is the problem that the Buddha discovered. The second noble truth is explaining the cause of that. The discontentedness is caused by craving, desire, attachment, because the mind wants everything to be permanent, when in reality, everything around you is impermanent. So I'll say that again. I'll give you some examples. The mind is craving permanence in the unenlightened state, while everything in the world around you is constantly changing. So for example, if you were in a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend, you guys first got together, you were probably quite happy. They were calling you, they were checking in on you, they were inviting you to the movies, to dinner. Maybe you're having great conversations, going for walks in the park. Maybe you're even having intimate contact, and you were so happy and so excited. But then at some point, your relationship broke up. You guys ended the relationship, and now you might have been angry or lonely or bored, or you might have been missing this person. This wasn't your love that was causing this. Oftentimes people think it's love. What it is it's your mind holding on and craving permanence. The mind in the unenlightened state can only be happy if it's getting what it wants and what it expects. So if the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy or excited about that. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets angry or sad or frustrated. So think about like if you maybe had someone close to you that has died, like grandma or grandpa, mom or dad, brothers or sisters. As long as they're alive, the mind's getting what it wants and it's happy about that. But then when they die, the mind doesn't like this. It doesn't like this change. And now the mind's craving permanence, but it's not getting what it wants. So it grieves and has sorrow and sadness. Or say you've ever been to a wedding. Maybe you've seen people get married and people were grieving and crying at the wedding, right? It's not love that's causing that, because here's someone going off into the world. They're starting a new life with somebody. Wow, that's wonderful. They've got a new relationship. They're going to have a great time. But no, mom and dad are crying. Brothers and sisters are crying because their mind's holding on. It's like, that's my brother. That's my sister. How dare you take them away from me? The mind's holding on. You can see this if you've seen people get dropped off at school, like little kids. The parents might be crying. If you can remember back to when you got dropped off at school, you might have been crying and upset when you were getting dropped off. Again, it's not love, because parents are interested in seeing their kids go to school. It's wonderful. They go to school, they get an education. This is outstanding. But no, mom and dad's crying, right? And the baby's crying because they're holding on and they're craving permanence. So one of the ways to say this is that the mind craves permanence. Another way to say it is that the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change when things are changing. So here's an example that doesn't involve relationships, that maybe you'll be able to see it closer. Think if you got a brand new car and you've been saving up for this car for a really long time, maybe 10 or 15 years you've been saving for this car, and you're so happy to get this new car, and you drive it off of the parking lot where you just bought it, and you go to a store and you park your car and you go inside to buy something, and when you come out, there's a scratch on your car. If you get angry and frustrated there, it's not the scratch that's causing it. And it's not the person who scratched your car, right? We're not talking about what's wise or unwise here, because it would be wonderful if nobody ever scratched our car. But that's not the world we live in. What's causing the mind to be angry and frustrated is its craving permanence. I want this car to look permanently beautiful, where it's not possible. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. It's only a matter of time before this car is going to start changing. So if your mind's holding on and craving permanence, when you experience impermanence, your mind doesn't like it. That's why if you take a moment right now, you look at your life, look at the times when you were struggling the most in your life. It's when things were changing. You were changing jobs. You were changing living locations. You were changing relationships. Those were some of the biggest challenges in your life. You can see that for yourself. You can take a very specific example from your life where you got angry or frustrated. It might have been this morning or yesterday or last week. At that time, you might have been trying to blame somebody else for your feelings, because that's what the mind usually does. But look at it with these fresh eyes. What was it that you wanted? What were you expecting? What were you longing, yearning for? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get what you wanted, the mind was angry or frustrated. If you can see this, you can have a real breakthrough, that you can actually see it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And this is very empowering, because you can actually fix it. Because what the mind will do when you think that the problem is external, when you think it's other people that are causing these feelings, is you'll tend to push them away out of your life. You might have pushed away friends or family out of your life, thinking that they were causing your problems. But you can see that they didn't cause your anger and frustration, because if they were the true cause of your anger and frustration, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward, because you just solve your problem. Or the second thing you'll do is you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile with people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. Or the third thing you'll do is you'll tend to put your expectations on people and try to pressure them to do things your way. What the mind's doing is it kind of has this little bubble and it's trying to live in this little bubble, and it wants everybody to do things this way. And if somebody doesn't do things your way, you'll push them out of your bubble, or you'll be bitter and harsh and hostile to them, trying to fear them to do things your way, or you'll put your expectations on them and try to pressure them to do things your way. And in this way, you can't live harmoniously with all beings. And there's probably people that are doing this to you too, where they're pushing you away. They're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, and they're putting expectations on you. So there's a better way of life here that the Buddha taught. And that's what you can come to understand in this third noble truth. The Buddha is explaining how you can eliminate your discontentedness by eliminating the craving, desire, attachment, where your mind's not longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of your affection. Sometimes when I say that, people say, well, if I'm not chasing after the objects of my affection, won't I swing all the way to the other side where I'm dull and lethargic and complacent and lazy? Well, you might, but that's not what the Buddha is teaching you. The Buddha is teaching you to come to the middle, where you can gradually pursue your goals, objectives, or interests with enthusiasm and ambition. So you can train your mind to get to a point where it lets go, where you're no longer chasing and holding on and craving permanence. But the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to let go. That's what the fourth noble truth is. The path to eliminating discontentedness is the Eightfold Path. This is the complete perfect plan that the Buddha shares of how to train your mind to get to the point where you're experiencing complete peace and complete joy in this enlightened mental state. And it starts with understanding the Four Noble Truths. The Eightfold Path are these 8 individual factors that are helping you to be able to learn how to train your mind. It's a plan of how to actually train your mind. It starts with right view. Having the right view is to understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Having wrong view would be to blame other people for the things that you're experiencing. So, for example, let's just say you're checking into an airport and you're about to take a flight and you think your flight's leaving in about 1 hour, and you get up to the ticket counter and you're checking in your bags. And maybe the person behind the ticket counter says, "Oh, sir, ma'am, sorry, you can't check in right now. Your flight's not leaving for 3 hours." If you notice your anger and frustration coming up, it's not the airline company that's causing that. That's the mind craving permanence. The mind wants every airplane to take off on time, where it's just not possible because we live in an impermanent world. Some airplanes will take off on time. Some airplanes take off early, but some airplanes take off late, right? This is just the way that the world works. It's impermanence. There's going to be maintenance issues, crew issues, weather issues. But the way the mind thinks, because of its lack of wisdom, is that it's the airline company that's causing you to be angry or frustrated, where in reality, it's the mind craving permanence. So if you can see this, more and more, you can practice right view, where you can look inward and see that your own mind's causing these feelings, and now you can eliminate them. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions on this before I move on. Remember, here we have the microphones, and online you guys can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So do you guys have any questions on this? No questions? Okay. I don't see any questions here online either. Okay. So now what we can do is we can start talking about mental health, because oftentimes people think that these feelings are being caused by the brain. They think it's brain chemistry that's causing them to be sad or having anxiety or stress or some other discontent feeling like anger and frustration. So first, you need to understand that the brain is not the mind, and the mind is not the brain. The brain is the physical organ that's inside the skull. The mind is non-physical. You can't touch it. You can't point to it because it's not physical in nature. These are two separate things. They influence each other, but they're completely separate. So when you understand that the brain is one thing and the mind is something else, then you can understand that what people are experiencing when they're experiencing these symptoms of sadness, stress, anxiety, and others, these pleasant, painful, neither painful nor pleasant feelings, they're thinking it's coming from their brain and their brain chemistry. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to tweak the brain chemistry. But if you're tweaking the brain chemistry, you're not training the mind. That's where the feelings are originating, is inside the mind. So while tweaking brain chemistry will influence the mind, it's not going to be a permanent solution. There's going to be continued problems. So you can train your mind to let go of craving, desire, attachment. You can train it through the teachings that the Buddha shares, and you can eliminate your sadness. You can eliminate your anger and your stress and your anxiety. You'll see that your mind's actually doing that, because you know in situations where you get angry and frustrated, and when you're experiencing those same situations and you don't experience the anger and frustration, you'll know it's coming from the training that you're doing with these teachings. But tweaking brain chemistry isn't going to eliminate a craving, desire, attachment. There's no amount of brain chemistry that you can tweak that's going to clean up the mind and uproot the causes and conditions that are producing these feelings. So sometimes when people are experiencing certain things from their childhood, they might think that this is a mental illness, that maybe they've experienced trauma. Maybe they've been physically abused or sexually abused when they were a child. And maybe in the present moment, they feel very sad and very frustrated about that. Maybe they're very angry. Maybe they feel very guilty and shameful about the feelings that they're having. All this is the mind looking to the past, craving and longing, yearning for something to have been different, that the mind experienced, the individual experienced, say physical abuse or some other abuse. And now in the present moment, when you're looking back to that situation, the mind wanted something different and it didn't get what it wanted. So now in the present moment, the mind is experiencing anger and frustration. I don't know about you guys. I'll check in with you guys because I usually check in when I talk about this topic. How many of you guys agreed with what your parents did 100% of the time? All the decisions your parents made? Anybody? Anybody raise their hand? No, I've never seen anybody raise their hand. Nobody has ever agreed with their parents 100% of the time. So what we experienced in our childhood is different than what you expected, right? But that's what you experience. Whatever you experience, good, bad, or indifferent, that's what we experienced. In the present moment, if we long and yearn for something different, we can't go back and change our past. So now in the present moment, we might be sad or frustrated or angry at our parents because they didn't do what we wanted and what we expected. But the problem is that the mind's craving and desiring and attached there. Even if we disagree with our parents and they did things that were unwise, we can get to a point today where we're no longer having anger and frustration about those things. Sometimes people experience things that are referred to as bipolar disorder, where your mind goes up into this excited state, and then maybe at some point it actually crashes, and people call that a depressive state. Well, all this is craving, desire, attachment. The mind's longing, yearning, and it's getting its cravings fulfilled, so it gets all this excitement and all this elation. Sometimes people are having sex or using drugs and alcohol or going shopping or any number of different things, and they get all this excitement, but then at some point the mind crashes and now it's getting sadness or frustration. This is just because the cravings aren't being fulfilled. So these things are oftentimes labeled as mental illness, but we can understand them through the teachings of the Buddha. The mind's conditioned to believe that it's brain chemistry that is the problem here. And because of this, the mind is practicing what we call wrong view, where it just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. But we can understand right view, that it's the mind itself that's causing these feelings. And now through this training of the mind, an individual can experience improved results. So in the mental health field, if we look at it, the human brain couldn't have become defective in just a few decades, because over the last several decades, we see large populations of people that are being put on medications and being told that they have a defective brain and that now they need to take this medication in order to become a better person or have elimination of sadness or frustration or anxiety or stress. And they might take those medications, but it never actually really fixes the problem because it's tweaking brain chemistry. It's not actually training the mind. So if the brain was defective, we would see that all populations of people would experience the same thing. But that's not what we see. Like here in Thailand, there's no mental health crisis. Like if you look in some other countries, like in Western countries, they're having what they describe as a mental health crisis, where there's so many people that are having difficulties and struggle with their mental health. But that's not the case here in Thailand. They don't have those same problems. This is why a lot of people come here, because it's so peaceful, it's so joyful to be here. In these modern mental health practices, if they were helping people and actually improving what we've discovered as to be the problem, then we would see the number of cases gradually declining. Because if there's a defective brain and we found out that this is the problem and we introduce some chemicals to be able to tweak the brain chemistry, and that's now improving the situation, we should see the number of mental health cases slowly declining because we've solved our problem. But that's not what we see. We actually see just the opposite. There's more and more and more and more and more people that are actually being diagnosed all the time, and there's a proliferation of these mental health issues. If modern mental health practices are helping solve a real problem, the places that are actually practicing these modern mental health practices the most, we would see that people in that society are the most stable and mentally fit populations of people that we would see anywhere in the world, because they're using this new modern mental health practices and their mind would be very stable and very steady and mentally fit. So places like the USA, places like England, Great Britain, places like the UK, places like Australia. These are places that actually use a lot of the mental health practices. So ask yourself, are those the places that have the most mentally fit people? Are they mentally stable? Is that what you see, right? So we can see through our true reality of being able to see what's actually really occurring is, are these mental health practices really actually helping? Western cultures don't practice and don't understand the three universal truths, the Four Noble Truths, and the Eightfold Path. There's no understanding of those in Western culture. The mind isn't trained to understand those things. And that's why in those cultures, they're lacking understanding of what's really truly causing these mental health challenges. So an individual can learn and practice the teachings to create a well-trained and stable mind. By gradually learning and practicing to train the mind and become more steady and stable, if an individual would like, they can actually gradually reduce their medications. If somebody's on medication now, I don't suggest that they just go cold turkey and eliminate that. Instead, if they started to train their mind and they can see the stability of their mind gradually improving, them and their doctors and their family are probably going to be able to notice that very clearly. And now they might actually decide that they would like to slowly decrease their medication. And that's something they need to decide for themselves. It's not up to anybody else to tell that person what they should do. But as you're training your mind with these teachings, you'll see more stability come into your mind, and you can actually get to a point where you're no longer in need of this medication because your mind is so peaceful and it's been so well trained. So over a lifetime of medications and therapies, there's an enormous amount of expense, and you can actually be liberated from that. You can get to a point where you don't have not just the expense, but the side effects of those medications as well. The right time to decrease or eliminate medication is something that comes through gradual improvements of training the mind, and it's up to that person to do that in consultation with their doctor and or their family and decide on their own that that's what they would like to do. There's many people that have actually experienced this life transformation where they're actually gradually training their mind and they're able to reduce, if not eliminate, their actual medications. So there's multiple conditions that people are labeling as mental illness, and you can actually trace this to the teachings of the Buddha. So for example, ADHD and ADD, these are where people are lacking concentration and focus. They have difficulties focusing on a certain thing. And people think that this is a mental illness or a defective brain. And they're taking medications thinking that they're going to solve this. But it never actually solves it, because as soon as you take the medication away, now the mind is still having difficulties. But if you train the mind through the teachings that the Buddha shares, you can actually get to a point where it has focus, where it has concentration and clarity. Same thing with things like anorexia, bulimia, and other eating disorders. This is the mind craving to look a certain way. The mind sees pictures in a magazine, or they see a superstar or celebrity, and those pictures have oftentimes been photoshopped, and they think that everybody should look that way. That's what it means to be beautiful, is to look that way. And now the mind is longing, yearning to look that way, instead of understanding that everybody's different. The world is impermanent, and different people are going to have different shapes of body and different color skin tones, going to have different type of hair. Not everybody's going to look the same. But if your mind has a craving to look like this person or look like this particular image, now your mind's going to crave and long and yearn, and you might do things like make yourself vomit, or you might stop eating, or you might do other drastic things to try to make yourself look like that. And it's just coming from craving, where the mind's longing, yearning. So I'm not going to go through all of these things. This is actually in the book in chapter 22. You can actually go through these and you can actually see how I've put in this column over here, how you can actually understand these same exact things through the teachings of the Buddha. Because oftentimes people are learning about these things purely from certain resources. They haven't actually looked in other places for answers. And this is the answer to fix this. I actually used to take medicine for 24 years. I was told that I had all these different mental illnesses and I was taking all these medications and nothing actually worked. In order to be able to get to sleep, I used to have to take a handful of medication. When I came here to Thailand, I started training my mind through the teachings of the Buddha, and I was able to eliminate all of that stuff. It's been many, many years that I haven't had to take any of those things. And I sleep like a baby now. I can fall asleep within 5 or 10 minutes and sleep wonderfully every single night. My mind's focused, it's concentrated. I don't experience anger, sadness, frustration, or any of these other discontent feelings. You can get to that same point, whether you have one of these diagnosed and labels that people are labeling, or even if you don't have any of these things, or if you know somebody who does, you can let them know that there's a solution for them, which is training their mind. So this is everything that I have to share with you guys here. It's just kind of like a chapter to help students to be able to understand that this whole idea of mental health, there's other answers, that it's not brain chemistry that is the problem. The mental anguish that people experience is 100% true, but the cause is not brain chemistry. It's just an untrained mind. So do you guys have anything you would like to ask me about this stuff? There's a question coming in here. Zoom. Let's see. Sir, I am sorry, I can't pronounce your name, from India. I have been suffering from mental health problems like anxiety and excessive anger. I have completed 3 10-day Vipassana courses in India, but I cannot continue my daily meditation practice. Please advise on this regard. There's more than just meditation that you actually need in order to be able to train your mind. Oftentimes in these kind of environments, when you go away to retreats, they're very heavy on meditation because they think that the Buddha sat under a tree, meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. And this actually isn't true. You need much more than meditation. You wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. So what I encourage you to do is start with this first book, which you can get from our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books and you can download it for free. Or you can take it and go print it. Or you can get printed versions on Amazon. Or if you were here in Thailand, you'd be able to get them here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost. You need to be able to understand the whole totality of the teachings of the Buddha and how to implement them in your day-to-day life. Because the meditation that they're teaching in those Vipassana retreats, the body scanning, the Buddha never actually taught this. So oftentimes what people are learning are misunderstandings of the teachings of the Buddha. They're not actually learning his true teachings. So even though you've gone away to these retreats, you haven't learned the whole totality of the entire path. And that's what I would suggest you start with this book. And that's what's going to help you get moving in the right direction. Okay, I don't see any other questions anywhere. You have a question? Yeah, man. You could use one of these mics. The people online will appreciate that.
For sharing, could you share more about like from your like you taking medication from to now more detailedly? Because I can imagine this beginning could be like more difficult because even though you said like meditation is not one of the key thing solution, but I can imagine like people in maybe mental illness, they would have even close their eye and meditate, like it would be difficult. They will have like panic attack or something. I can imagine. So like, can you explain more or like how you get it through?
Sure. So what an individual needs is they actually need to learn this entire path. This is just the image here, but I'm going to be teaching this on Tuesday morning. I'm teaching a class all next week, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., where I'm going to be teaching all the foundational teachings that it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. Because while somebody might have difficulties meditating when they first start, you just start wherever you start. When I first started, I could only meditate for 1 minute. My mind was so congested and I had so many problems in my mind. 1 minute was all I could do. So I would just do 1 minute. And then I would walk away, and then I'd wait, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Then I would meditate another minute or two. And then I would walk away, go do something else, go outside for a bike ride, for a walk, come home 3 hours later and try again. And now maybe I meditate 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and you just gradually expand it. But if you put expectations on yourself that you should be able to meditate 30 minutes or something like that, and you can't do it, you'll get frustrated. You'll get angry. But just understand you start wherever you start. And sure, you're going to experience certain problems along the way, but you just start where you start and you gradually expand it from there. And as your mind's getting more and more stability, you'll see that. You'll notice that internally, because your mind's going to start experiencing more stability. You'll be able to fall asleep easier. You'll have better experiences. And now you can slowly back off on the medicine. It probably took me, from August until about October, November to be able to get off the medications I was on. And that was pretty fast for me because my mind was experiencing a lot of progress. So I was able to get off of it pretty quickly, but not everybody's that way. Some people might take 6 months or a year or even longer, maybe, to be able to gradually decline on their medication, because what the medication's doing is it's tweaking brain chemistry. And what it will typically do is numb the mind, and you have difficulties training the mind as long as the medication is there. So when you get rid of your medication, now the mind, you're going to start seeing the true mind. So that's why you need the tools and the techniques of the Buddha to be able to see that mind and now apply the techniques to be able to calm it. So that's why you're not interested in just going cold turkey off your medication. And you're also interested in gradually increasing your practice and training of the mind, so that now when you start seeing the stability of your mind's more stable, you can back off on the medication. So there's kind of like one of these going on. As you're gradually training your mind, you're gradually decreasing your medication at the same time. And then you'll be able to see the effects, and the people around you will be able to see the effects too, because it's really going to improve the way that you interact with other people in your relationships. Mm-hmm.
Like, what inspire you to choose like this method as one of your part of your healings? Because like friends, they would like so insisted on the way they heal themselves, like maybe as you said, like medication or something like that. They were so like believe in kind of method to heal themselves. So it's difficult to try to like help.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've heard this before. This is a common saying. People say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results, right? So I had been taking medicine for 24 years, and I kept having the same problems over and over and over again. And I knew that this wasn't solving it. And ever since I was 8 years old, I remember being in my room, because I had a very difficult childhood. I remember at 8 years old being in my room crying because I wanted a better life. I wanted a more peaceful life, but I didn't know how to do that. I never understood. So when I started spending time around Asian people, I started seeing that they were doing things differently than the way I grew up. So even though I was taking that medication for 24 years, somewhere inside of me, I knew there was something better out there. And I never really fully believed that I was actually mentally ill. I believed it to a point that I was willing to take medication, but I didn't fully believe it, right? So once I got to the point where I started training my mind and I saw the improvement, I was like, I'm not mentally ill. I can get rid of this medication. So then I got rid of the medication and I saw my mind improve. It really helped. I was in a hospital in Thailand. I went to the hospital because I was having mental issues. And the doctor came into my room with 2 nurses, and they looked me in the eye and they said, what can we help you with? I said, well, I'm here because I have mental health issues and I need help. And they said, well, have you ever been treated in a hospital for this before? And I said, yes, I was treated multiple times in the USA. And they said, have you ever been treated in a Thai hospital? And I said, no, never. And they said, well, would you like to do what you did in the past, or would you like to try something new? I said, well, what I was doing in the past wasn't working, or else I wouldn't be here. So I'd like to try something new. They said, okay, we're going to try something new. Don't worry. We'll take good care of you. We're going to try something new. If you need anything, just let us know. And they walked out of the room. They didn't do anything. They didn't give me medication. They didn't give me anything. I just sat there in the hospital bed. And the only thing I knew how to do was to meditate. So I started meditating and I started training my mind. And slowly but surely from that point forward, it was like a real turning point, because I realized, like, oh my gosh, here in Thailand, they don't give you medication unless you ask for it, right? If you ask for it, they'll give it to you. They have it available, but they have other methods. And they must have known somewhere that I knew how to be able to do this. So I started training my mind. And from that point forward, things just kept getting better and better and better and better. And I've never had any problems since then where I had to go to the hospital for mental health issues. It's been many years, and I'll never have to go to the hospital for that ever again, because my mind is more stable now than it ever was, even when I was a child, in my early adulthood, even before I ever started taking medication. My mind is more stable now than even then. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Mm-hmm. Sometimes your most difficult struggles will actually lead you towards improvement. Okay, I don't see any questions anywhere else. So I'm just going to end by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, there's lots of opportunities for you to do that. You can check our bulletin board over there. You can check our website. You can come talk to me and I'll help you get plugged into what it is that you need. Like I mentioned, next week, I'm going to be teaching Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You guys are welcome to come to the whole course, or you can come to little bits and pieces of it. I'm going to be teaching this path on Tuesday morning. And if you were only going to come for one morning, that would be a great morning to actually come. So whatever you do for the rest of your day, have a wonderful and lovely rest of your day. Take care and be well. Sawadee-ka. Sawadee-ka. You're welcome. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.